Okay, hi everybody. This is Chris Kennedy from the Central Texas Mycological Society. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about a new program we launched last year, Healthy Soils, Healthy Trees. So this is a really great partnership between Ecology Action of Texas, a local nonprofit here in Austin, with some support from the City of Austin's urban forestry program. And the idea here is to really think about the connections between fungi and some of the local trees here in Central Texas. So we're leading this initiative with three main components. One, to launch a community science initiative at the Circle Acres Nature Preserve, which I'll tell you a little bit about coming up, and to really experiment with different fungal treatments. So using fungi to help the benefit trees in different kinds of ways. And we're collecting data, getting community volunteers involved in actually going out and doing some soil analysis and trying to understand the best methods. We also are working with an artist in residence at the Myco Research Station, which is located at Circle Acres. And she's been helping us to create some sculptures made of mycelium material. And the idea is to use that to inspire and communicate all the different kinds of ways fungi are really integral to our lives. And the third component is to launch a series of public programs, workshops, and hands-on tutorials to teach the local community about the ways they can use some of our recycled mushroom blocks and other kinds of methods to enhance their gardening, tree stewardship, or composting initiatives. So we've got some just quick little informational sections here. So education, community science, and public art. And we really think that these three things together are really important, right? To make sure that we have accessible ways for the community to understand some of the more complex ideas behind, the benefits that fungi can have here in the Austin's urban forest. One of the other big goals of the project is really to address what the City of Austin has identified in 2020 as an equity sort of issue related to tree canopy coverage. And so you see here on the screen a map that was put together by the City of Austin and some folks a part of the Urban Forest Council to really map the sort of distribution of tree canopy across the entire metro region. The left-hand side is a color shaded green, denoting that there's a little bit more canopy coverage on the west side of Austin, which tends to be a little bit more affluent, wealthier, and white, and compared to the east side of Austin, which is a little bit more lower income, has more BIPOC communities living in that area. And so we're working specifically on the southeast side of Austin to really sort of hone in on some of those equity issues and help folks to think about, increasing the mortality rates, survival rates of their trees, especially when we partner with folks like Tree Folks, which is really great, another nonprofit that we're partnering with. They have a great program called Neighborhoods where they give away trees, and we bring our recycled mushroom blocks to those events and teach the community about the ways that they can use that for planting their new trees. The site that we're working in, like as I mentioned, is Circle Acres Nature Preserve. It's a really interesting, unique site on the southeast side of Austin, just south of the Colorado River, right next to Roy Guerrero Park, which is a City of Austin park. It was a former dumping site for the I-35 highway project. And over the course of several decades, Ecology Action of Texas, this nonprofit that we are working with, has really tried to regenerate and rehabilitate the space, pulling out debris, trash, things like that, to allow the urban forest to kind of come back. So we're working on that site. The Myco Research Station, which you can see some pictures of here, is located at Circle Acres Nature Preserve. This is a few images of our community volunteers getting involved. One aspect of this project is really to create a space at the Myco Research Station where folks can gather, experiment with different ways they can use mushrooms for all different kinds of applications, and also just make sure that we have a solid structure that'll last a few more years. So we're just working to rehab the space, get some different kinds of sealants on there for the weather, and make it sure that it's a community space for the future. Since we launched the project in kind of late summer, early fall last year, 2022, we've hosted several different kinds of workshops, including the fluorescent forest part of the Roots and Wings Festival. We had a really cool arts and materials workshop. We also did a great collaboration with the Herbal Action Project in January, learning all about local different kinds of medicinal applications that integrate mushrooms and different kinds of local plants in the area. And more recently, we just had last weekend a really great workshop all about the soil food web, led by some CTMS members, Gabe Miller, Andy Marsh, who's our soil scientist in residence, and also Ellen Beeman from ACC and Austin Community College. I've got lots more in store. We've also had several community work days. So in total, we've planted 54 trees in the Roy Guerrero Park and right kind of next to the Circle Gears Nature Preserve. And these are just a few images of the different kinds of communities we've engaged, about 45 to 50 per community work day. We've done a total of 5 of those. So hundreds of people have been involved in getting these trees in the ground, which is really exciting. Let me tell you a little bit about the community science project. So I'm really excited about this. So the main objective is to really think about the ways we can partner with fungi to benefit different kinds of urban forest, to benefit the trees basically in the urban forest. And we're trying to address a big research gap that we've noticed, especially in the literature and talking to experts, as there's not a lot of actual knowledge on the ground, practical knowledge about different ways that you can use fungi to enhance tree health. And so we're trying to experiment with mycorrhizal, but also the decomposer saprophytic fungi to really understand what is the best way to treat and to help trees, especially when we're dealing with things like extended droughts, extreme weather, and poor soil conditions. We launched 3 sites, so kind of experimental sites. Let me just pull up that map really quick. I'll go back. So you can get a sense of the scale of this. So there's about 6 trees per species in each site. So a total of 18 in each, and a total of 54 total across the project. And these are just kind of an overview shot of Guerrero Park. So we've got 3 different kinds of habitats. We're taking into account, different areas of the forest that have more light, different kinds of shrubbery and vegetation, and bare soil, trails, things like that, to really account for those kind of differences. The 3 species that we're working with are Eve's necklace, the Mexican buckeye, and the southern live oak. We determined that these would really be accessible to homeowners and also something that's native and will be hopefully thriving despite some of the extreme weather conditions that we're facing here in Central Texas. We're using the live oak as a way to understand soil conditions. So we've taken a special interest in this particular species of tree. We've collected soil samples within a few weeks of planting the first at each site to really understand soil texture, the organic matter percentage, and fungi bacterial ratio, which I'll go over in the next few slides here. And we basically have 2 treatments, right? So this is the kind of fun stuff that we've been doing with the community. So on the left-hand side, you see our first treatment is working with the decomposer recycled mushroom blocks. And these are kind of a variety of blocks. Typically, we would get blue oyster, golden oyster, or lion's mane mushrooms. And these are coming from local farms like Hi-Fi Mycology and Smallholds here in the area. And we divert that from the waste stream. And one idea we thought would be really interesting is to find ways we could actually use this for helping with tree stewardship. So what you see here on the screen is one of our volunteers breaking up the mushroom blocks, popping that into a 27-gallon container, just a plastic bin that we got from Home Depot, and then combining that with the mulch, so something that's been dried out for a few weeks, is not too wet. And then we add a little bit of moisture just to make sure that there's some something, that's going to be good conditions for the mycelium to expand. So it's kind of like a 3-to-2 ratio, about 3 parts mulch, 2 parts of the recycled mushroom blocks. We let that sit for 10 to 14 days with the covers loosely on to allow for some airflow. And then you'll see a little bit of myceliation happening in the substrate. And then we applied that at the base of the tree, leaving a little bit of room around the trunk to allow for airflow and things like that. So on the right-hand side, you see this kind of gate fence around it to keep the deer out, but it has the fungal, sort of the saprophytic decomposer mushroom and mulch mix put on top. The other treatment we're doing is working with a mycorrhizal inoculum. And so we've partnered with Wildwood Organic, which is here in Austin. They do get some of their mushrooms from outside of the area, but this is a really cool powder form that has over 19 different kinds of species of endo and ectophytic mycorrhizal fungi. Some of them are, better partners with certain different species of trees, and so we're just kind of, trying this method to really kind of understand, does this have any big, effect that's measurable? We basically take 2 scoops of the powder, we combine that into 5 gallons of water and mix it around, and then we apply that into the root zone right before planting, and then pour a little bit of the excess on top. And in total, there's 6 different kinds of variations of the treatments. We're trying to, take into account different kinds of controls and other variables. So some trees get nothing, some trees just get the mulch, some trees get mulch and the recycled mushroom blocks, kind of etc. So that we have kind of replicates of each species. And so we have some understanding of the different kinds of, habitat variations, but also the different ways that, just having mulch versus the mulch with the mushroom might be different. And again, we've got these 3 sites that we've chosen for the different habitats, all within about a quarter mile of each other. And what we're actually collecting data on here is kind of shown on the screen. So again, organic matter percentage, fungi bacteria ratio. These are things that we send out to a lab called Ward Laboratories. So we've gotten samples back from each of the live oaks at 3 of the different sites. And then we're going out and by hand, manually collecting data on the trunk diameter, so the trunk caliper, the crown ratio, and understanding the kind of canopy coverage, right? Are we seeing a huge, growth in the branches of the trees, for instance? And then also just visual observation. Are we seeing mushrooms? Are we seeing myceliation? What's going on with the soil? You can see here a few videos of different microscopic images of the soil samples themselves. So this was done by a really great collaborator that's been involved in the project, Andy Marsh. She has a really great lab called Rhizos. And under the microscope, what you can see here are some of the soil food web basically coming into life. We've got a nematode on the right, and then we've got large moving bacteria on the left. And what Andy has kind of helped us understand is that most disturbed soils have a high concentration of bacteria, not so good necessarily for some plants, a low percentage of fungi over time. And it's due to a variety of different issues. So by trying to bring back fungi into the soil, we're hoping to activate the soil food web, improve soil conditions, and hopefully that'll benefit the trees. Okay. Right, so we're about halfway through the project. The plan for the spring is to have a few more workshops. We've got one on sheet mulching coming up and landscaping, ways that you can use the recycled mushroom blocks in your kind of backyard or other different kinds of applications. Got a few more other community work days planned. And then we're going to be doing a big bio blitz in about a month where we're going to collect data from the spring to sort of check in on the trees as they come to life in the next few weeks. We'll repeat the process in the fall to get, at least 3 or 4 data points. And then by the first year, just try to, really analyze the data and see if we've got any interesting, significant findings. So it might take 5 to 10 years to really see much of a, difference, but we're hoping we might see some signs of